Hey folks, MasakoX here. From humble beginnings, being one of the April Fool What If series that the channel has grown to love, this tale has become something that not a lot of folks out there would have seen coming. What we experience with the Ginyu Force is that the road to that endpoint is not that simple, despite their very wholesome and quite eccentric origins. I mean, okay, for Freeza Force members. Ginyu, despite finding some contentment, could not shake off the idea of working for someone else. He is a very good second in command. It's become very clear that he is. But when it comes to leading the charge solely, it just doesn't come naturally to him. As for his team, they flourished, as they've become good guys under the watchful eye and trust of Goku. What we learnt here is that this good boy story is far from straightforward. In the last part, we had the beginnings of the Resurrection F story occur. Bonyu, the former Ginyu Force member, introduced in the Kakarot games, had provided the remaining Ginyu members, led by Jeice, sanctuary on their homeworld, including a name change to the Jeice Brigade. They learnt to adapt and get some of their melancholy out of their systems. However, Freeza's return, and you are familiar with how he returned, was something they just could not ignore. And when they got back to Earth for the first time in quite a while, they not only spotted their former boss, but their captain alongside him. In the end, Ginyu, after many parts of him being a liability for goodness, ironically, paid the ultimate price and managed to aid Vegeta, whom he'd quite a lot of beef with even before the Namek saga, allowing the prince to dispatch the Emperor once and for all, and allowing Vegeta to finally scratch that itch that his character arc has been so desperately craving for so long, but has been consistently denied. Pardon me for the vent there, but it's true. With Freeza gone and Earth in one piece, and not having to be rewound by Whis, the gang now have to deal with the reality that this time, Ginyu wasn't coming back, but he had earned their forgiveness in his final moments. Let's resume on this somewhat somber note. Amidst the loss of their recently resurrected leader, the morale of his troops had all but been extinguished. After all, he had basically hired mercenaries to do the work for him. There was not as much cohesion as before. As the remainder of the Freeza Force lost their will to fight and were allowed to cut their losses and keep their lives, even Vegeta wasn't really worried about them, the Jeice Brigade, that's the new name for the Ginyu Force by the way, were assessing their losses. While they completely understood what Vegeta did at this moment was for the greater good of the galaxy, saving countless worlds from Frieza's potential conquest, and did not hold the loss of their friend against the prince. But it still felt painful that he was involved in Ginyu's death ultimately, one of their ranks. To see the captain go out like that was a bit of a mixed bag. Granted, yes, it was a very glorious way to go from a fighter's point of view. Yeah, spectacular fashion, may I add, but it was also sudden. They didn't really get a proper chance to say goodbye, or to say, all is forgiven. Not really much of a thank you. That hurt the most. Jeice looked particularly pained about this happenstance, considering that he and Ginyu were so close. But he was then approached by Vegeta.
At least he was able to act like a true warrior in the end.
The Brentian said nothing. He knew that Vegeta was trying his best to comfort him in his own special Saiyan way, but he just couldn't bring himself to respond just yet.
It's not a surprise to know that for many years I hated his guts. I couldn't bear his personality and way of going about our work.
Jeice was getting a little annoyed at this point. What kind of counselling was this? But the prince ploughed on.
But I do agree with him about one thing, that you should be the one to take the lead of his team. You've been taking care of those fools for so long that you're practically their leader in all but name already.
Jeice's eyes widened. There was the compliment. Was Vegeta complimenting him? Wait, you heard our conversation?
Your face told me the whole story. Of course, I don't know about the details of your conversation. I was occupied by Freeza, as you may recall. But, yes.
Jeice then snapped out of his stunned silence with a good question. Wait, what are we going to do with the remainder of Frieza's army? Isn't it a little reckless to just allow them to run away? Vegeta looked up at the Freeza ship currently hovering in mid-air, awaiting their potential destiny.
You probably know what I would have done if I were running the show altogether. But that idiot Kakarot is out of commission for some time, so that leaves the two of us as Earth's defenders. We can handle a bunch of grunts should they dare pluck up the courage to stand in line to be killed by us again. Might I talk to them? Be my guest.
Vegeta gazed upon the remains of the army as Jeice flew up to the ship and entered. The remaining soldiers remembered Jeice somewhat fondly, and were hoping that his persuasive nature could maybe grant them mercy, hence why they waited. Okay lads, here's the deal. You saw what Vegeta over here did to your boss. Now, this can go one of two ways. You can either get your butts out of here and start rethinking your lives, or you can die in agony in a fireball thousands of feet in the air. If the blast doesn't kill you, terminal velocity will. So, what are we thinking, lads? Go on, make it easier for everyone and leave. After those words echoed through the ship-wide tannoy, the Freeza soldiers quite rightly agreed to Jeice's orders and retreated. Some of them were thinking about a way to possibly retaliate, but they then quickly realised that that just wouldn't work. Vegeta was simply too powerful, and Jeice's aura was far too sincere for this to be a joke. Oh, and one more thing, said Jeice before he took his leave. If any of you are thinking about a career change right now, you can stop by my friend Bonyu's place on Branch. She can, help you find a new path to walk down. That'll cure your itch. I've left the coordinates with your navigator. And don't try and jump the planet, okay? They're heavily armed and are expecting you to double-cross us. So why don't you just take the invite while it's cordial, lads, okay? Bonyu blushed internally at this bigging up of her services, but chose to display her appreciation in the form of a massive thumbs up to Jeice. After the soldiers retreated, Vegeta seemed a little disappointed at this very lackluster end to proceedings, but he decided not to go about his instincts and blow every single soldier up. He relented. In time, Goku was healed, and everyone gathered around the Saiyan and the remaining Jeice brigade to talk post-fight. Dang it! I totally let my guard down like a rookie!
Wouldn't be the first time, Kakarot.
Vegeta snarled with a mixture of derision and amusement. Burter looked contemplative on the other hand. The loss of Ginyu was still hanging heavy above the brigade. Say, do you think we could maybe ask Shenron to revive the captain? In the end he turned around. Proved to us that he was really on the level all along. The other two looked hopefully at Jeice. Could they do that? But his expression was ashen-faced and resolute. No, I don't think he would want that. He was a conflicted being, our captain. Bringing him back to deal with that turmoil all over again in his head, that would do more harm than good. Wishing him back is selfish of us. The others were shocked, but understood.
Recoome didn't see it that way.
Jeice looked up to the sky. Maybe you'll find inner peace in the other world. Guldo, trying to hide his tears, looked at Jeice. That speech was pretty cool, Captain Jeice. Jeice snapped out of his contemplation and blushed. No, stop it. No, I'm not.
Recoome thinks you're a perfect candidate for a captain.
It is a logical conclusion that you should be leading the squad.
He was blown away by this outpouring of confidence. You guys. The bromance, though, was punctured by the arrival of Jarko. Sorry to interrupt this warm family moment, my friends, but haven't you guys thought about perhaps joining the Galactic Patrol? As a super elite, I could possibly... Jarko started his recruitment spiel, but was then interrupted by Bonyu. Apologies, officer, but we prefer a more freelance structure. Paperwork and office parties aren't our style. What do you say, boys? We don't want to trade one king in for another. Not to say that we couldn't be allies, though. I might have an idea that could make both parties happy. Jarko was totally overpowered by Bonyu's larger-than-life personality, as well as, her tactics, and utters something in agreement, under his breath. He had just witnessed Freeza being dispatched by these people. It would be wise not to get on their bad side. Yeah, Jeice nodded. We should get back to Branch. There's a lot we have to do. I do think that at least some of those guys will visit. I hope. Even if a handful of Freeza soldiers join us, that'll be a massive win for our cause. A boost for everyone.
If they choose to go behind your back, you're responsible.
Vegeta shrugged, but Jeice saw the faintest of smiles. Goku, however, nodded at them with a massive grin. You guys are always welcome here. Then, Burter's face contorted into a shocked expression all of a sudden. Oh goodness! We still need to find a gift for Pan! Burter was still embarrassed about that. They still hadn't gotten it. But once the gift had been acquired, and after several long farewells, the 6 members of the Jeice Brigade returned to Brench, and very quickly, it turned out that Bonyu and Jeice were right, as some of the ex-Freeza Force members had started to pop up at Bonyu's haunt. Some were more repentant than others, but they did manage to control their students fairly quickly, and after just a few days, Bonyu came up with an initiative to further improve their recruitment drive and prospects. Why don't we expand the force, Jeice? What do you mean by that? Bonyu looked a little cheekily at him. I mean, some of the patrollers are quite capable, but their competence varies wildly. Do I need remind you of Jocko? Some super elite. Then you have the likes of Mirus. He's always busy despite his capability. We cannot depend on the likes of him. They are spread too thin for my liking. Our galaxy could do with a larger freelance defense force to fill in the gaps. Jeice was putting 2 and 2 together. You mean like we become space rangers? We could safekeep larger portions of the galaxy that way. And whilst Jeice was reluctant to take that much of a responsibility at first, the forming of Jeice's Space Rangers began, with their newest students being some of the first recruits. Found this experience rather ironic. He once worked with some of these people under Frieza's boot. Now they were working under his. But his boot would be far less impactful. Who would have seen that coming, he reckoned? A lot of the Brenchians were receptive to this idea, and therefore welcomed this new change of pace, becoming a beacon of hope for millions in deep space, jaded and forgotten by the Galactic Patrol. And so, the people of Brench decided to help out in their own ways, and after just 1 month of this, Jeice and Bonyu had managed to acquire 50 members, as well as the support from the local Brenchian government. They couldn't believe their luck. Things had gotten done so quickly, playing nice. Jeice cursed Freeza for being so maniacal. If only he were more diplomatic with some worlds, things would have been far less chaotic. Even his father Cold understood that basic facet of rulership. Bonyu was also the one to conduct communication with the Galactic Patrol, to ensure them that this new organisation wasn't here to undermine them. They did not have any nefarious goals and could be a potential ally in the long run. They were there to take some of the load off their shoulders, but he still liked to have an occasional dig about them in quiet. Something that the Galactic King, though, found really appealing. Yeah, the help, not the heckling. Whilst the Jeice Brigade weren't able to spend much time on Earth now, thanks to their new schedule, they were still able to get a ginormous stuffed toy for Pan for her next birthday. And they were also part of the audience for the Universe 6 tournament. Jeice chose to give the original squad the day off to go and watch. They were originally considered as potential fighters by Beerus, but he then later decided on the original squad to not draw their attention away from their new mission. You know, something that could benefit him as well. And besides, he still wanted to teach Goku and Vegeta that lesson with Monarca as the guinea pig. And whilst all of them did regret not taking part in the tournament, they were still pretty excited to cheer on the team. They were booing Frost's deception of Goku and Piccolo, and they were particularly interested in the amazing strength of Hit, especially Guldo. What kind of time power was that? And after Monarca won, Guldo decided to approach the assassin. After all, the gods seemed to be more occupied by that Zeno fellow anyway. Hey, sir! Mr. Hit, sir! Hit tilted his head. What do you want? How do you do that? Hit turned to look at Guldo with a confused look. Do what? That thing, with time. Hit turned away. Great a fan. He shrugged and flatly responded. It's my own business. You couldn't possibly understand. But then Hit realised that the little green guy was gone. Or at least he was moving faster than he could perceive. That was weird. Surely that little green ghoul couldn't be more powerful than he. If so, why wasn't he on the Universe 17? He decided to perform a time skip to find out where he went, and could see then Guldo holding his breath. He patted him on the back, forcing him to expel the air from his lungs, and thusly restored the flow of time. It was rather impressive for someone so weak to be able to elude him, even if it was just for a split second. That was something to inquire about. All right, you intrigue me. Let's talk someday, short one. That was worth my attention. But don't get any ideas that alone would help you against me. Hit turned around and walked away. Whoa, he is so cool! Guldo's eyes widened and shined brightly. Jeice was also glad to hear about the Saiyan Defense Force, and actually approached Kaba for any clues as to how to lead such an organisation, as they themselves were still pretty new. They were happy to exchange notes. After the tournament, Guldo decided to train even harder, to impress the likes of Hit should they cross paths again, all whilst the rest of the team were busy organising the Space Rangers. Everything was going great. At least till they got another distress call from Earth not long after. On one hand, it was a happy occasion because Future Trunks was back, that's neat. But on the other, apparently, he was back with dire news, and the brigade knew that they had to help their friends with this one. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. If you like this story and wish to find something similar, check out the story here where Freeza himself turned good and turned over a new leaf. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!